let you start.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning, Jen. How are you?
Good morning, Ross. I'm good.
If you're tuning in to this Fox webinar with all the things we're trying to bring to light when it comes to Sundance and hosting all the things, today I have with me the lovely and talented Jennifer Fox, who founded Fox Property Management 20 some odd years ago now.
Yes, about 24.
24 years
I
ago.
know.
What we're hoping to talk about this morning is something that I think you and I both really, really love about the idea of this, which is the hospitality side of hosting stays and what the entirety of what that means for Sundance. And so we're really hoping that people understand that the idea of opening your home is not just making it clean, having beds made, and taking off. But there's more to the story there. And I also think that story goes past the home and what Sundance is and what Boulder and the surrounding communities are going to bring.
Like the full experience
The
we want
full
people
experience
to have.
that we want people to have.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into some thoughts and some ideas and have a conversation about it. But why don't you give like a 10-second, 15-second, tell the people who you are.
Okay, well, I'm Jennifer Fox, started Fox Property Management. We do long-term management, but we've also got a division that's doing the midterm, the short-term, the nightly stays, and we're super involved in creating an experience, a landlord-tenant experience that's different, that really engages with the fact that the experience of the resident or the tenant is hugely important in the experience of the landlord as well, and that the better experience our tenant has, the better the experience the property has, the landlord has. And so as a company, that's who we are, that's what we believe in. And so we have this opportunity right now with Sundance coming to town and with Ross's division that really is focused on hospitality and taking it to the next level. And honestly, that's just an extension of what Boulder wants to do around Sundance. Is Boulder really wants to make Sundance, the Sundance experience, be a hospitality experience. And so our part is really small. It's just a piece of it, but it's where people go every day at the end of the day, right? And so they arrive in Boulder, where are they staying, what's their experience, and we just want to be part of making that excellent. So
yeah, and part of the thing that I think is helpful is to kind of, part of hospitality is knowing who's coming. And so from what we've been hearing and what we've been going through, how would you sort of explain who is it that's coming to Sundance? And I think we've been hearing a lot of different things, but what have you been hearing? The quality of human, the demo of human that's coming to this event?
Well, it seems like it's almost coming in waves. So you have the corporate, right? You have, let's say, Netflix, they know they're coming, and they need to bring a team. This is a very intentional for them. They're looking now. Where can our group be, right? So there's that kind of corporate group coming. Then you also have all of the the people that know that they're coming because they're experiencing it. They may have films that are coming up, or maybe they go to Sundance every year, so they just know. They might be vendors, different, and then you've got the people that live in the state that want to come, right? So they're figuring out, do I want to go stay in Boulder surrounding areas? Do I live over on the Western Slope, or do I live in Denver and I can just take a bus in every day? And then you have those of us who live in Boulder, who's going to stay. And then it's my understanding that we also have the people that are going to get invited to Sundance that are going to come in last minute. And so we're also, it's coming in waves, right? From basically the advance team.
Totally.
You almost look at it that way. When there's a big advance, there's like the advance team that comes in and sets up, and then there's all the people that are going to come and want to be a part of it. So does that align with what you're
and
seeing?
I think that I'd add on to that there's also a fairly higher level financially compared to other events, just because some of the industry and corporate people obviously are coming in with decent spending power that way.
And expectation.
Because
they've been doing this every year. And I'm sure when they were going to Sundance in Park City for the last 10 years, the premium pricing hit at that time of year.
Yeah, and I think they're also wanting to not just have a nice home experience, but have a nice festival experience. And so there's multiple layers of what they're trying to experience and have the 11 days around this festival, every part of it feel elevated, interesting, intentional, I think is a word I like using a lot in the hospitality world. And so I think with that understanding of who is coming and where they're coming from, I think it really is a conversation to be had about what does hospitality look like from the lodging standpoint, and how is Fox going to step into that? How is it different or the same than we do the rest of the year? But then also how we would encourage everyone, even if you're not in lodging, but like you have a retail or a restaurant, how are you stepping into the hospitality of this moment and really thinking through that?
So so much of that is perspective. And also, like, if you're having a guest come to town, right, you think about what's their experience when they come into your house.
Yeah.
Right? You're thinking about what food do they want? What's their experience? Is their room set up? Do they have a towel? I mean, we think about those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that next level of creating. Basically, I think it's so much about what would you want your experience to be if you had paid a premium to come to this city that you're so excited to come visit, and you've paid a decent amount for your rental, and you walk in, what's the experience you're going to have?
Yeah.
And I think if you come from that perspective, you're probably going to provide a better.
Yeah, one of the things that I say to a lot of people as I'm out there talking to them, thinking through the first time of opening up their home to guests, is I was lucky enough to kind of hear about Airbnb 15 years ago when it was early starting, and my wife and I decided, let's try it. And we rented out our own home while we were on vacation one summer. And I think we charged a very fair rate, probably similar to the hotel down the road, because we just didn't know what we didn't know in that time. And I think it was a little clunky of an experience. I think we did have like a few things to welcome them in, and we created a sheet of paper that gave ideas of Wi-Fi and some of that stuff. But I think we were given a lot of grace that it was an affordable stay, and it was like a full kitchen, and
so they got value.
They got value, even though the new hosts were a little, figuring things out.
Yeah.
And I think what is super interesting about how many first-time stays will happen during this big event is it's not just a first-time stay and you got to figure it out, but also an elevated nightly rate that is not going to give you as much grace. Because it's like, that's how humans work. If I pay $100 for something, I have an expectation. If I pay $1,000 for something, I have a higher expectation. That is just natural human behavior. And so I think what we're really encouraging people is to think past just having clean sheets and a clean home, but how do you take that next step in hospitality? The way that I really look at this is it boils down to how much are you willing to listen? One of the things that people don't really think about is, somebody reaches out for a booking, they book it, it's locked in. In those messages, sometimes you get little hints about who these people are. Obviously, for Sundance, we kind of know why they're coming to town.
Yeah.
It's not that hard of a thing. But what we've done in the past in certain moments is, one day I was at a liquor store. I know. But but I walked by this display, and it was a bunch of really cool looking gold bottles with a CU Buff logo on it. And it was just Prosecco and a fun CU graduation kind of thing. And I just went, we need to buy those for all our graduation stays. And so we just bought 15 of them, put them in all the welcome baskets. And it's because I knew why they were coming, that touch point as they walked in and saw this celebratory item that's also a keepsake.
It made him feel like,
and made them feel like, oh,
Yeah.
the host actually knows why we're here and knows what we're doing. And so with Sundance, we know why people are coming. And so listening is maybe going to have to be on a slightly deeper level of paying attention to what the guest who booked is saying and
that's true.
And delivering some of those things that feel personal. Our team has read through a really lovely book called Unreasonable Hospitality, which was written by a restaurateur who took 11 Madison Park to the #1 restaurant in the world in Manhattan. And basically, the summation of his philosophy is listen and take action. And some of those things that you do to make people feel special can cost no money at all. But some of the things are like, oh yeah, it makes sense based on what they're spending. Let's go the extra mile and do that nice thing. And so I think it's important, especially if you're self-managing, to pay attention and to think through some of the things that you're hearing from your guests so that you can tweak the stay to feel extremely personal and extremely hospitable, honestly.
Yeah, I have a experience that I had. I went to Hawaii to play in a soccer tournament, actually. Yeah. And we had an Airbnb there. And it was really interesting. In the Airbnb, the bed frames were broken. The mattress, I had to sleep on the floor. I had to put the mattress onto the floor to sleep on it comfortably. Yeah. There were no nightstands. There were no side tables. There were no lamps. And there were no throw pillows, and there were no blankets. We'd finish playing, and you'd want to sit on the couch with a blanket over you with a lamp on and have a cup of tea or some water. And there just none of those things were there. Yeah. There were couches and there were plates and there were beds and there were sheets and there were towels, but it didn't feel cozy. It didn't feel welcoming. I really had trouble being comfortable. Yeah. It was a very uncomfortable experience in a beautiful place that could have, with the smallest amount of investment, made a complete difference for my experience. And I've never forgotten that. It was, it was just really interesting how the smallest things, from the recognizing, for example, if your guest is coming to ski and they can't wait to ski Eldora, what could you add,
exactly,
right? That as their experience. And maybe someone else is there, but they specifically talked about how they're going to try to hike. If the weather's good, they're going to hike. So maybe the focus is hiking. And it's then it's the other little things.
And hiking is actually a great example of it's not any money to go find a hiking trails something or print off a hiking trails map that includes in your guest packet that you're maybe leaving behind,
and then maybe 2 sets of spikes for the guests to
exactly
put on their boots so they can actually hike on the trails, right?
And honestly, with some of the price points being pretty high for this event, if somebody's booking your place for 2 weeks and they mention they want to go up to Eldora, you could work out before they even get here a shuttle system for them to get up there and maybe take some of the cost on your own. And a lot of people would say, well, I'm leaving my house. I want to make this as profitable and as helpful as possible. And that is so fair. But what's $100 or $200 for potentially having somebody who says, I want to come back to your house for 10 years. I loved this experience so much. You cared for us so deeply. Yeah. And, one of the big things we do is welcome baskets, regardless of time of year.
Right. That's just something you do.
That's just something we do. We even do it at our midterm properties when you could be there for a year.
Yeah.
But we want you to come in and feel welcomed by our team, by the owners that we represent. Because I think what is hard about all of the things in property management and real estate is sometimes it just feels transactional. Yeah. It just feels like this happened, give me the money, good luck. It's kind of how Hawaii probably felt. It was very much transactional. It's like you have this, you're in a beautiful place. You don't care what the house is like. Yeah. Just go be on the beach. Stop worrying about the house. You know. But that takes all the human connection out of it. Yeah. And so we really believe that you need to be thinking about welcome baskets. And we usually have a pretty robust as far as amount of things in the welcome basket, but it's curated and bought in bulk, so it's not super, cost prohibitive for our owners. But when it comes to something like Sundance and the price is elevated, I think if somebody shows up and it's clearly that you only spent $15 to $20 on that, and no offense to the wine that used to be called $2 Chuck from Trader Joe's, like people know
They
if
know that's
they
$2.
have a $2 bottle of wine sitting there for them. And so I think it's really thinking about, okay, I'm making this much money, and how do I make them feel special as they walk in? And I think, if you're getting $500 a night, think about a nicer welcome basket. If you're getting $1,500 a night, I'd spoil them in some ways, and that doesn't mean you're going out and spending $1,500 on a welcome basket, but it does mean it feels less like I walked to King Soopers and bought a few things I saw.
Well, I think it's a feeling of like, I'm so glad you're here. I want you to have an amazing experience. I want you to want to come back. I mean, I don't have the exact phrasing here, but there's this idea that, in an instant, you make a first impression. In an instant. And you can also ruin that first impression in an instant. So there's an opportunity where not just as you personally, if you're renting your property, but our city to make a really great first impression. And when you add a ton of value and you make it so that people are like, oh my gosh, this was such a great trip and I loved where I stayed. You may not want to rent your house every year. You may not be able to. But what if the experience that the person had or the people had in this first year was just next level? So your reviews are, the importance of reviews, right, Ross? I was talking to someone yesterday, he said he made a terrible mistake when he was renting his place out because he knew a bed needed to be fixed. He didn't take the time to fix it and it broke while the client was there. And he's like, it was 100% on me. I did not understand how important it was to make that experience good. So that's a detail, right? But it matters because if you get a bad review, it impacts your future opportunities, right?
It absolutely correct. Okay. And one of the things that I talk about is, especially if all you're getting is the festival license. So like, this is your one moment.
This is your moment. Yes.
That need to make sure this first year review goes the right way is tremendous. And because if somebody comes in and a bed breaks and then they're like, we paid $1,000 a night and there's not even a pound of coffee here, and then it starts to like snowball into, I saw some dust on the mantle, it starts to create a narrative.
They start looking for all the problems.
Yes, and then they leave and they give you a 2-star review for all the things, and that listing is almost dead.
Oh man,
because you can't host stays for the next year where you do it right and you get all those 5-star reviews and you build up your reputation again. You're just sitting there. And so I think it really puts you at risk of ever being able to rent again with this one time a year rental philosophy.
So that should literally be the most important thing you do this year, is do it so well that the experience is excellent. So from the preparing the property correctly, pricing it in a way that still creates value, then communication's got to be excellent. Right? Welcoming them, hey, we're so glad you're coming. This is what, all the communication piece, and then being available throughout the stay, right? And doing all those personal touches, because if you do it really well this first time, no matter if your first time is Sundance or your first time is renting your place midterm this summer because you're on vacation, it doesn't really matter, right? We're just having the conversation about if you're going to rent your property in in a furnished short-term, midterm event sort of thing. It matters that you do it well.
Yeah, and I like something you said there, which is kind of the next level of hospitality, is responsiveness.
Okay. Yeah.
So like thinking through ways to make them feel special and do that, but like none of that matters if it takes 2 days for you to tell them what the Wi-Fi password was, or to solve a Wi-Fi issue, or a keypad sticky because it's freezing temperatures and hey, can you help? That matters a lot, is how quickly you can take action, how quickly you can make sure those things are taken care of. If it snows, I'm hoping it'll snow next January. How quickly does snow get removed? Keeping people safe and cared for is kind of the word. And so responsiveness is a huge element to that. And so if you're leaving the state or even the country and self-managing, I'm not saying you can't self-manage, but that responsiveness is going to be the biggest thing you need to plan for if you're leaving.
You have to be on 24/7 call, right? I mean,
yeah, for the most part.
I mean, I don't know. In the long-term rental world, right, we have 24/7 on call because it is crazy in the middle of the night, the things that will happen, right? I don't know how often you get that sort of thing in a...
Yeah, I mean, we do. Obviously, if there's a actual emergency happening that needs to be dealt with, that's, a flood or, some of the big disasters that you don't want to have happen.
Yeah.
We definitely need to be available for that. I think there's a lot of things that feel urgent to somebody, but they're willing to deal with the next morning. Mm-hmm. But if they wake up the next morning and there's still no response, it's like,
yeah, right.
And there's lots of things that could be. It could be, hey, we pulled up to our place at 11:30 at night and someone's in our parking spot. I don't know where to park. They might have a willingness to
figure it out that night.
But if the next day that car just stays in that spot and no one responds, like that really, really deteriorates all of the experience that the person's having. And so there's a lot of ways to make somebody feel special, but there's also a lot of ways to make somebody feel ignored and quickly move towards bad review and future success not being an option.
So basically what I'm hearing you say is, self-management, I mean, these videos are for people just to be educated.
Yeah.
You may or may not choose management. If you do it yourself, you need to consider this being something that you are focused on doing well, from the preparation to the experience, to the preparation to the communication, to, all the way through, almost like it's a business. You almost have to be in business to have this go well, or you need to hire a business that cares a lot about going well. Because if we work with you, it's my understanding, if we work with you and we ask you to prepare your property and you do, but there's something going on and we somehow miss, or the property doesn't perform, it's a huge impact on us too. So we're very, very focused on making sure it's a great experience. And you would, under management, you've got someone working every day checking those communications. They've got, deadlines. So you have to run it like you're a property manager if you're going to do it yourself. And it's just important that you do. Otherwise, you may not have the opportunity to do it again.
Well, and I think you and I land on the side of it of like, this is bigger than just your property. It's bigger than the properties we're going to manage at Fox. It's the whole story of what Sundance in Boulder ends up looking like.
Yeah.
And I think for you and I, we've been around Boulder so long that we see the big picture economic, cultural win this is for our community that we grew up in, that we want people to know how to do this well, so that across the board, everyone feels this was an incredible experience and we're so glad we moved to Boulder.
Yeah.
And I get it. There are some people that are like, well, we don't want it here. That's fine. But there's a lot of people that do. But I'm going to go back to the business side of things. And I think it's interesting because I've been an entrepreneur throughout my, working career, that it's like, it's easy for me to wrap my head around what you said of like, I'm going to look at this as a business and I'm going to do these things and move this around. And, but it is interesting to think through like, yeah, you want to make good money while you leave your primary home. Totally agree with you on that. That makes sense. But if I pitched some other business idea that was like, I think you can improve what you have, you could spend some money, make sure you don't lose any money in year one. And then the next 9 years, you're going to make 10, 20, 30,000. I mean, it doesn't matter. But like whatever that number is on the level of quality of home you have, you just get that for the next 9 years because you took that first year seriously and focused on the things between hospitality and quality of how the home's set up. Like, as an entrepreneur, I would have been like, where do I sign?
Perfect sense, yes.
Like, how do I do that? Like, I get it. Like, some work. I won't lose money in year one, so that's good. Yeah. But then I get this recurring thing.
Yes, it's this return on investment concept, right? And so in business, in business, you're always investing on the front end. Some business owners spend the first year investing in themselves as they grow their business, right?
Yeah.
So if you consider your house a business and this 29 days an opportunity, there's an investment up front, which is time, energy, probably some money, and you hope to at least break even in year one. Yeah. But the idea is that you're building the reputation of your business, which in this case is of our housing. And so, and the hope is that we're profitable in year one. But I think if you get your mindset around that this does take a certain level of energy that will pay off not just for you, but also for the entire community and experience, that then, I mean, we could throw in there that Sundance brings potentially $200 million into our community in all sorts of ways, in all the different services. It's a huge benefit to the community financially. And so you might be one little piece of that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because all of those other pieces of the community that will benefit, most of them are businesses because that's where people spend money. But like all of those businesses are also going to be doing business a little differently than they would normally at the end of January.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good to kind of keep that in mind of like, you're just matching the spirit of wanting to attract people to what good things you're bringing to our community. And that could be your home. It could be your restaurant. It could be your retail shop. It could be, I'm going to shuttle people up to Netherland and Eldora the whole time and make that really fun experience.
Maybe you become an Uber driver.
Yep.
Just for the...
You absolutely can. But like with the intent of, I want to make this an excellent experience, not just I want to make as much money as possible. Right. And I think that's, Visit Boulder has really pushed the idea of host with heart. And I think that's bigger than just hosting your home. It's, as the city of Boulder, how do we host this event with heart for all the things we're doing? And I think the lodging is a big part of that because it can, and in some ways, lodging wins if people don't talk about lodging.
Right.
They just had a good experience and the lodging didn't ruin it.
That's like a referee in a soccer game. If you don't know the referee is there and you didn't even notice, it's like the best referee ever.
Exactly.
So just manage the game.
I think that's the thing. And if a referee gives you a gift in the middle of the game, even better. So, well, I don't think we need to belabor this whole idea. I think we kind of hit the heart of what we think really matters. And host
with heart.
And I really, the reason my team read that book a year and a half ago and we keep coming back to it is I was like, we do manage properties. That is absolutely true. But I really wanted to shift their view of what we do and their perspective to say, we are actually a hospitality company that manages properties. Because then you don't look at that tenant as just a means to an end. You look at that tenant of like, I want to make this special. And when you do that, usually the rest comes.
Yeah.
And so I just hope that everyone who goes into this and decides to self-manage, that you take that part you get to play seriously. And we, look to other education things, look to, there's plenty of information and education out there of how to do that well. Yeah. And so I just hope everyone leans into that as much as they can, especially in year one as we figure this out.
Yeah, awesome. So, well, thanks, Ross.
Yeah, thanks, Jen.
For doing that, and your team, I know, is working hard and we're always available to, have conversations with you about your property, questions that you have. You can connect with our team if you want to be evaluating your property for this opportunity. But we're just going to continue to learn. Even in the midst of not knowing, even in the midst of it still being a little messy and uncertain, what we're trying to do is be partnered with and connected with people to continue to bring information forward so that we're all in this together, moving it forward to do what's right for Boulder, what's right for Sundance, what's right for our community in a really positive way. So we'll look forward to continuing to offer programming opportunities. We've got panels coming up. We've got all sorts of things. So keep an eye out on our website, on our landing page at foxpropertymanagementmgmt.com. And we will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks again for checking in.
Thanks.